Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is TaraLee Live, and I have an amazing guest panel. In fact, so many amazing people. Some of them I haven't even met. So, Carrie is this amazing woman that I met at HempFest. And I have invited her back on for her to catch up and tell me more of what she's got going on. This is a woman that is active out in the community, actually doing stuff for the community. So, Carrie, tonight is for you. So please be my guest and take over. It's your show. You're welcome.
Oh, thank you, Tara, for having us on. And everybody I invited for a few different reasons. They are all very active in the community, and with their projects, they do a lot of good work. I admire each and every one of them, and I am honored to call them all my friend.
Aw, thanks, Carrie.
Oh, you're welcome.
Feel the same way.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So I think I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about what you got going on. Let's start with Glenn.
Oh, wow, threw me right out there. My name is Glenn Keeling. Currently the Creative Care Beacon. We are the Ohio chapter of the Human Solution International. I am also the media coordinator for the Human Solution. I sit in the chair for that on the board. I am also a current defendant, along with my wife, in a cannabis case here in Ohio. We've got a lot of things going on. We do a lot of different court support for different people. We have a letter writing campaign going on for plant prisoners that are still being held in prison in these legal states. We're trying to get those amended or added to their, what they consider their legalization laws. Because it seems like they've gotten left behind and missed. We call a lot of prosecutors. Zach Salazar is going through a case. We call his prosecutor. Adam Folkelman is serving time in Franklin County here in Ohio, and we call and advocate for him for his judicial. It seems like his judge is really hard about giving that out. But that's what we do, and that's what we got going on. Questions?
Take it away, Stacy.
You're muted.
Stacy, you're muted. Darn it.
Okay, hi. Well, you just want me to tell what's going on?
Yeah, a little bit about you, your cannabis, your activism.
I know that's why they're just, I do a lot of activism. I've been like some of the activists that come before us, like the passion struck, and just commit to doing everything that I can every day. If it takes the rest of my life, it is what it is. But to work on educating about the truths of the plant and the need to end the drug war on this plant and set our people free and end prohibition in all ways. So that's pretty much what I do. And I do have a big old green cannabis, and it's a 1988 GMC school bus that's all painted bright green with murals of cannabis freedom all over it. And we've toured in 34 different states since 2012. And we've done everything to educate veterans, VFW conferences, capitals. We team up with organizations. That's a lot of what we do. I market for the activists and the efforts. So like with my following and with the bus, I want to help everybody doing good stuff. So along with my education efforts also comes with all the good efforts that I know that I know are happening, helping get people to get connected with those efforts as well. When I went to Oaksterdam University in 2011, I had been about cannabis and cannabis freedom my whole life, but I did not know there was local organizations that you can look up the meetings to. I didn't know there was, things that you could get involved with on the legislation effort. I didn't know that there were parents getting their kids ripped away and people going to court. So I didn't know, even me being all about cannabis. So that kind of like stirred a lot of passion that more effort needs to be about driving people to a lot of people's efforts, because we're all in this together. Glenn talked about the human solutions and the cannabis, and my efforts. Like, we worked strongly together in the beginning, and a lot of chapters that are out there now, and a lot of the things that the human solutions been able to do, the cannabis helped ignite a lot of those efforts and rally support for them. That's how me and Kristen met. The cannabis and my organization CannaSense and the human solutions and Nora Callahan's group and all kinds of people joined forces, because no matter what, we're in this together, but we all joined forces and we did a journey for justice from California to Montana to support Kristen Floor's dad's partner. He was about to be sentenced to federal prison for following state law in Montana.
Okay, wait, girl. I got to interrupt you on this. You did what? You took this bus? Swear? This looks so cool. I want to ride on this bus. I have no idea what's going on here. Tell me about this bus.
I was on the bus for 10 days. So that's when I met Stacy on her bus.
So, yeah, the cannabis is a big education machine. It's a big, after I went to Oaksterdam University, like that whole changed my life. That is a whole other story altogether. I went to Oaksterdam a week after they put a memorial to my Uncle Gary in their museum. I didn't even know there was a memorial to my Uncle Gary. I didn't know he was in books.
You should tell everybody about your Uncle Gary a little bit.
Yeah, please go.
Don't
Please
know.
go ahead. Is that okay to share that with us tonight?
Yeah,
Are you okay?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm emotional because my dog died a couple days ago, so it might hit little buttons, but yeah, I'll do what I can. So my Uncle Gary, I like to remind people, like, as a niece to my Uncle Gary was a good uncle. He lived on our family farm that had been in our family since my great-great-grandparents grew hemp and harvested hemp on that land in Kentucky. And fast forward to my Uncle Gary, he was drafted to Vietnam. When he got out of Vietnam, he, was having a hard time like so many other veterans. And he ended up on our family farm, where he got very close to God, and started growing his own everything. He's like a green thumb guy. He was proud of his tomatoes, his okra, his flowers, his everything. And so he started growing his own pot, but he was also, he liked his privacy and his rights and all that stuff. But long story short, on August 8th, 1993, the Kentucky State Police had helicopters in the air. A helicopter landed on my family farm, or they were flying so low that the leaves were like blowing off the trees. My Uncle Gary waves for him to land in the field next door to his fence that fenced around where his home was. and they land. They tell my Uncle Gary that they have seen his plants and they have to come and cut them down. And he says, over my dead body, I don't believe the way you do. And instead of arresting him right then, they got in their helicopters and they went away. About an hour and a half later, they had blocked the road a mile each way. And the property was surrounded by police and helicopters, and a national drug task force was hiding in the tobacco field next door that my uncle wasn't aware of. So after 7 hours, they called it a standoff, which during those 7 hours, my uncle was being a dad to my baby cousin who was 4. He told my baby cousin that whatever happened today was the truth. You know, it took me many years to understand what the heck that meant, but me and Jake both know that now. But he helped. He was like, you know, with Jake, hammer nails, you know, he had thought he needed to teach Jake how to hammer a nail into wood and use a hammer. And they piddled around on the truck. So he was just trying to be a dad to Jake because he knew that he was either going to go to prison or die. And when the cops first got there, my aunt and tried to take my cousin out of the fence and leave with my cousin, and it was the cops that kept them there and said they could not leave. About hour 6 in this so-called standoff, things were getting kind of intense. There were like low flying helicopters, you know, for hours. I believe that they were trying to get my Uncle Gary in a violent state, him being a Vietnam veteran. I think that they thought that they were going to get him in a PTSD violent chaos state, and that didn't happen. My aunt tried sneaking out the back gate with my baby cousin, because if she would have went over the hill, she would have been at my great grandma's house. And when she went out the back gate and tried to go up the hill, it was armed police officers that stopped her again and made her go back inside the gate. So hour 7 comes, and my uncle is sitting in a metal chair. His rifle was leaned up next to him. He didn't even have it in his hands. But then they finally started demanding that he comes to the fence. So he got his weapon and held it over his head and started walking towards the fence. And that's where the National Guard came out of the tobacco field, threw concussion grenades in his face. And all the cops in the front just blew him away, like execution style, in his front yard, just a few feet away from my baby cousin and my aunt. My aunt was grazed in the head with a bullet. My baby cousin was covered in his parents' blood, and they didn't even know if they shot him yet. I make sure I tell this part of the story because the news said that they were forced down to, Kentucky State Police were forced to shoot down a crazed Vietnam veteran holding his family hostage, protecting his marijuana crop. And so it's very, especially in today's world where everybody understands the fact that the media lies and they make things up, it is very important for us to understand the weight of what they make up. I was an hour and a half. I knew way back then because I was my Uncle Gary's niece. That's where I visited on summer breaks when school wasn't out. I was at the family farm. I loved that place. And I was an hour and a half north of our family farm in Georgetown, Kentucky, when it came on the news. I didn't even know what happened until I saw it on the news. I didn't even talk to my family. And when they showed that cop say that my uncle came out of the trailer with his arms the way that he displayed on TV, it made me sick. Like, it made me physically sick. I had to throw up because I knew during the whole news story, I was like, what? Like, I even went into shock. I thought that they were showing the wrong Vietnam veteran from Broadhead, Kentucky. Like, I sounded like a crazy kid. I was 17 years old. Like, oh my God, they're showing the wrong Vietnam veteran from Broadhead, Kentucky. They got the wrong veteran connected to the story they're telling. Like, I've got my arms up in the air. I'm going through, like, I guess, shock or whatever. And then they show my family farm, and I'm like, did they really kill my uncle today? Like, what the heck happened? My life is, spinning. And then I see that cop come out, and he's telling the reporter that my uncle held his arms in ways that Vietnam and a motorcycle wreck had disabled his body to where he couldn't have moved his arms that way. As a niece, I know because I hugged him enough and I was around him enough and I saw him carry my baby cousin. So I know what his limitations were. So I knew right away that awful things had happened. And I knew right away that my uncle could not hold anybody hostage, like he could not hold his family hostage. But the police got away with it. The government got away with it. It was pretty much thrown out of court. They were very honest. This was in 1993. They were very honest at the fact that it was a pro-police state and a pro-police court. And it was thrown out of court. At the time, there was a lot of court support and rallies. I was young. I was in shock. I was just there for my family. I didn't really understand where all the people came from until fast forward to 18 years later, and we get medical marijuana in Arizona. I get all excited to go to Oaksterdam University, and then there again, they had been going since 2007. I get there in 2011, a week after they put a memorial up and opened their museum. And so everything I learned at Oaksterdam, it connected so many dots in my life, and I learned the truth, and that everything my uncle said about the plant, there was science and court cases and all these things to back it up. And then I also learned at Oaksterdam that it wasn't just Kentucky, it wasn't just my uncle, it wasn't just my family, that there was families all over the country that had lost loved ones or had people in prison over cannabis still. And so, yeah, that was the light, that's what lit my passion and my fire. And then it led to the cannabis that has rode for the last, since 2012, 36 states, and teaming up with a lot of activists and organization and bringing attention to a lot of needed things along the way.
Wow, thank you, Stacy. That was such powerful information, and my listeners are definitely enjoying the show tonight. They're very thankful that you're here telling these stories with us. These stories need to get out. People need to hear about these things, and this is what we're here for tonight. Carrie, thank you again for bringing these amazing women on tonight. First of all, I've never been on such an amazing panel with so many women. Boy, Glenn, you're a little outnumbered tonight. Sorry. but okay, go ahead, Carrie. Who else do you want to go in?
Well, I'd like to say just real quick, for anybody who missed the name of Stacy's uncle, it's Gary Sheppard, and you can Google it to read more about this tragedy and help fuel your fire to get involved to help in not only cannabis prohibition, but the drug war. I'm blessed that it's never affected me or my family, but this plant has probably saved my life. It got me off so many pharmaceuticals. I feel like I have a duty to do everything I can to not just for legal access, but I think we should just get to the root of prohibition which is they're profiting off of locking people in cages. It's immoral, it's not right, and we all need to do something to stop it, which is why I do kind of focus on a federal prisoner from Washington State, Lance Glore, and try to get him free. So let's go to Anna next, because she can tell you about Craig Cecil and some stuff that she's got going on.
Boy, I mean, how do I follow that? I don't have nearly as long a history with the plant. My 14-year-old broke my pelvis when I delivered him. I was studying medicine, and I realized very quickly that I needed to find a better way to deal with what was going on. And it ended my career. So I had to find another career too. So I'm the executive director of Memphis Normal now, and I'm the district manager at CBD Plus. So we've been running a campaign with the free Craig Cecil signs, giving people a discount if they take a picture with the sign. So I wanted people to be able to get involved and see something tangible happen. I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, where the reason that we don't have medical cannabis is because we can't do ballot initiatives, because there would be overwhelming amount of support, but we can't even get them to vote on the poor medical cannabis bills that they've put forth the past several years. So there's that. But a lot of people coming into my shop, they're just researching CBD, and they're not about THC, but the fact that someone's gone to jail for this and has been in jail for so long. Carrie, I can't remember exactly. I think it's the late 80s, early 90s. Do you remember?
Craig Cecil's coming up on his 18th year in federal prison. He's serving a life sentence for cannabis conspiracy.
So early 90s. No,
I want to say, Anna, thank you for what you're doing to bring, attention to Craig Cecil. The Human Solution has him on every Wednesday on the Cup of Joe. He calls into the show every Wednesday, and I think that's awesome what you do. You're bringing more attention to with the signs and the pictures and stuff, and I think that's amazing what you're doing.
So Glenn,
we appreciate that. Yeah.
Glenn, can you tell them about calling in there? Maybe my listeners might not know about that.
Yeah, it's the Cup of Joe, and it's on Wednesday night. I will have it posted for people here soon. That way they can call the show, or even, tune in. You can find it on Facebook under the Cup of Joe, or even go to the Human Solution International. That's THSINTL.org. And everything, come over and find out what we're all about. I encourage people to go to the website and look at that, and come find out what we're doing. A lot of good things. This June, we're going to embark on a walk for change. It's a walk across America. That's on there too. And I don't mean to take any more of Anna's time. I just wanted to say thank you very much for the attention that you're bringing for Craig, because he calls the show every Wednesday, and that's awesome what you do.
And I'd just like to add with these pictures, we do share them on social media to raise greater public awareness about our injustice that Craig Cecil and his family continue to pay the price for. And I'm also going to send them to the White House. Anna does forward them to me. I upload them into an album on Facebook. I will put them in photo collages, and I'll send them directly to Trump.
I just want to give a big shout out for Craig Cecil, because since probably 2012, 2013, he's been calling into the Human Solution radio show. And anybody watching needs to realize that he is spending life in prison for pot, never smoked any pot. He was just the mechanic for trucks that drove pot. And he is such an activist from inside the bars that he has religiously called for how many years now? Like probably at least 5 or 6 years now, and he's not allowed to do that. He gets in trouble. He has been put in solitary confinement for calling in and being the voice from beyond the bars and being an activist and letting us know the shitty circumstances and what not only he goes through, but other prisoners go through and the treatment. He is our voice from behind the prison walls, and he's not even allowed to be doing it. And it just made me so happy when Glenn said that and wrapped my mind around, like, my hero, Craig Cecil, that holy shit, he's got in trouble so many times, and he still religiously calls into a radio show to be that voice for us. And he's one of the, like, why I ride around and advocate for prisoners and do things. Sometimes I have to witness that they get solitary confinement or visitations delayed. And you're like, oh my gosh, am I causing these people to suffer? And again, the prisoners are like, don't worry about us. We're fine. Don't keep doing what you're doing. And I just wanted to, I can talk too much at some time, but that was my point of unmuting, is to just like give Craig Cecil some mad freaking love and props for being the warrior that he is. Like, no one on the outside has an excuse.
Well, this stabs to you,
active.
Craig, because you're not able to do that where you're at. So this one's going out to you and everybody in chat land out there. You better take one for this man.
And Craig Cecil has never even smoked pot in his life. That's the craziest part. A mechanic in Chicago who had clients who brought him trucks to repair. He had no idea what was going on. He didn't want to work with the feds. And he pretty much, he is the fall guy.
He wouldn't be a narc, so his daughter has had to grow up without her father.
And his son sadly passed away since his incarceration. Well, Wendy, do you want to jump in and tell us about you and what you got going on?
Was Ann all finished? Anna, were you all finished up? I'm sorry.
So I asked Carrie, I said I could take you guys with me to go get my husband. Should I? She said, sure. So you guys are going with me.
Oh, awesome. Cool. We're going for a drive. Woohoo.
Did you have more you wanted to share, Anna? Because I don't know if you got cut off.
Well, we're going to continue.
Well, we can let her go do her drive, and then she can talk when she gets back. We'll let you go on.
No,
how's that?
We're already in the car. We're driving. I'm talking.
Oh, okay.
Hi,
cool.
Anna's hubby.
You're on Bluetooth. No, he's not there yet. I'm going to get him now.
Oh.
We're going to continue to do this for more plant prisoners. We're going to put up more signs, and I really love that it gives the customers a chance to see kind of what's going on. And most people are like, yeah, absolutely. Let's take a picture with the sign. Some people want to cover their faces, but it gives them a chance to get involved in a way that they wouldn't have had before. So I really love that about it.
And I so appreciate you doing that, Anna. I don't think a lot of people realize how much time and hard work it goes into not only getting the pictures, putting them in collages and doing everything. And it's just such a great relief that you took on Craig Cecil. And I encourage anyone who wants to get involved with any plant prisoner. If you want to do it with me, that's cool. If you want to do it on your own, that's cool. Just get in touch with me if you need any help. There's so many plant prisoners out there, and they need our help.
So Carrie, like for someone that like maybe is totally new to get involved in this, and you're saying, take on a plant prisoner, what does that like really, what did like basic, like let's dummy it down for the basics. What does that actually entail? How do they do that?
First of all, I would suggest researching the case of someone who's incarcerated for cannabis. Find out the details, because people will ask. Sadly, even within the cannabis community, a lot of people are under the assumption that if you're incarcerated for cannabis, you must have done something wrong. Usually not the case. Technically, it's legal nowhere because it's federally illegal. Lance Glore, for example, is serving 10 years in federal prison for the non-crime of state legal medical cannabis right here in Washington state. The state went after him, actually. They found nothing to charge him with, and then they handed evidence over to the feds, the evidence being cannabis legally purchased from his dispensary. So that could be anybody in any state, anywhere right now.
So he's essentially serving time because he made too much money, right?
They try to make it about a money thing.
Oh,
I'm not exactly sure. At
that's
some
not why.
point, I do plan. Go ahead
I was
and
at
interject,
Lance's
Kristen,
trial.
please.
You guys, I'll get all into Lance at my turn. But I was at his trial. But the federal government was literally trying to enforce their federal laws regarding some 2011 raids that took place across the whole nation. And so that's basically, they're using Lance as an example is what it was. And I can go all into
And
Lance's case, not a little bit in a minute, but when it's my turn, I'll get more into it. But yeah, it didn't have anything to do with the money. There's people around here who's way more money than Lance that didn't get raided. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
Did you
I
have
just
more?
say it wasn't
Oh,
about-
no, you're fine. Thank you. Yeah. And I think we should add, this was before the amendment that stopped the feds from having the funds to go after state legal. Once upon a time, they did have that. But yeah, research the case. Public awareness seems to be huge. A lot of people aren't aware of how many people are in prison for cannabis. And I don't know, I just kind of followed my heart and did what I felt inspired to do and started painting t-shirts that say Free Lance Glore and sending them out, and then had people write up signs, and we've been sending them to the White House every 3 months for approximately a year and a half, maybe a little bit less.
Thank you for that, Carrie. I
You're
love that
welcome.
project. I love it.
Well, you help yourself by helping others. It's definitely helped me grow as a person.
Well, and that's how Carrie and I met, right? So I was at
Yeah.
HempFest, and HempFest was closing down, and I had been there hanging out with everybody. My first HempFest ever in Seattle, Washington. I'm totally new to
Stacy and
cannabis.
Kristen had just walked away like 10 minutes before.
Oh, I
this.
just missed them, really.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
serious.
who I missed. Okay, so yeah, and I saw Carrie, and it just really looked like Carrie was this gal running around with this sign, and she was like from this end of the freaking hemp fest to that end of the hemp fest, and she was taking pictures with everybody, and I'm like, okay, I got to go ask this lady what the hell this is. What I got to at least know, right? I was curious, so I went over there and I says, hey, I got a YouTube channel. I'll give you a voice. And so here we are tonight. So thank you for joining me and putting on this amazing panel. I had no idea that you guys were even around. This is the first time I'm meeting a lot of you tonight. So please continue. I'm loving it. And so is my audience.
Well, thank you so much for having us all and for this awesome opportunity. Well, did you want to go ahead, Wendy? And
Sure. Carrie,
okay.
Thank you so much for inviting me. You have really opened my eyes about plant prisoners. I kind of came to cannabis as a patient. I got really sick in 2011, and they told me I was going to die from a disease called dermatomyositis, which I got from taking a statin drug. And it's a little known fact that less than 1% of people will get this disease from taking statin drugs, which they give out like candy to everyone, whether or not they even have cholesterol issues. Sometimes if you have other issues, they add the drug like they do big pharma. And so I ended up on 16 pharmaceutical drugs and in a power wheelchair. And my wife bathed me and dressed me and toileted me. And we were nearly bankrupted by the health system. And living in Arkansas, where we're living again now, the health system hasn't changed much here. If you can't pay the doctor for your last visit, you can't go to your next visit, even if they tell you you're dying. So I was originally from Massachusetts, and we decided to go back there because we knew the health system was just a little bit better in terms of access. And fast forward a couple of years, I was still on all the drugs. The doctor kept saying, you know, you have a diagnosis to go with every drug. And I didn't know I was addicted to opiates and Valium, and the list was endless. And it was past the acute phase, and I just decided one day, I was sitting on the couch and I heard this voice that said, your body knows how to heal itself, which was something I already knew. And anyway, I decided that I would start to wean off of the pharmaceuticals, and I went into withdrawal. And a friend came to visit, and she asked me a question that saved my life, because they were right. I would have died if I stayed on the plan that they had for me. And so she asked me, have you tried marijuana? And I hadn't since high school, you know. And I was a health professional. I was an occupational therapist, and you know, they drug test, and it just was something I never used all those years. And so with a few puffs, the pain reduced and I started to feel better, but then it really woke me up. You know, I came off of 10 drugs in a couple of months using cannabis primarily. And then I added other alternative health methods like chiropractic. By then I could walk on arm crutches, but the chiropractor helped me get off of those. I had acupuncture, other herbal treatments, and but everything I wanted to do that equaled real health, I had to pay for out of my pocket, and it was a big struggle. As I'm disabled. I call myself disabled survivor of the U.S. healthcare system. And so I decided to start a nonprofit organization. It's called Bulldozer Health, bulldozerhealth.org. And we help people our mission is to educate everyone about all their health options, improve access to alternative health care, and inspire people to optimal health. And so education is a big piece, and reducing the stigma of cannabis. We throw it in kind of with the whole list of other health treatments, you know, and so that we can reduce the stigma and have it be just a choice along with all these other things that are for people's health. We help people with access to cannabis doctor visits in 4 states if they can't afford it. And do a lot of public speaking. I've written a couple of books, really always trying to normalize and reduce the stigma. And we hold events. We have an event coming up here in Arkansas called the Green Heart Festival. And it's kind of, in doing this work, you know, I realized that wellness and music and art and plant medicine all come from the same place in the human spirit. So the festival is marking all of that. It's the weekend of 420. And it's grown immensely from last year, from a small grassroots festival to what I just can't believe how much it's grown. We have a street art component. There'll be 10 buildings around Fayetteville that will have plant medicine themes. And we're just always trying to do that. And then I connect with other groups, and we connected with Carrie, and you know, take Lance Glore t-shirts to our events and talk to people about plant prisoners. And I've learned so much from her about how to help people with that. You know, many people that have been arrested here, it's not decriminalized here. There's only medical with no grow rights. It's a corporatization of cannabis, which happens, you know, frequently in the country. And so people are still being arrested. And one thing that our organization can do is help them at least to get a card here, because many people can't afford the doctor visit. And then we're starting to work with the dispensaries now to help people to have access to the medicine, which we've done in Massachusetts. It was easier because you can gift it there. Growers could gift it to us, and we could gift it to patients in need. So it's a really big project. Please check it out, bulldozerhealth.org. And you know, my goal is to inspire people and let them know that this plant is vital to people's health. It creates homeostasis, and it's the basis for where all other health benefits come. And we have to all work together and make sure that people understand that, so that they realize that it is medicine, and all use is medical use. I really don't like it when people separate, recreational and it's all medical use. If you're using it to relax, if you're using it to go to sleep, maybe you don't have diagnoses that are on some list, some random list that somebody came up with. But it's all medical use in my mind. So, so I think that's pretty much what's going on over here.
Wow, Wendy, what a story. I can't imagine what you've been through. Thank you for sharing that. There's a lot of people out there that probably could really, be in a lot more better, health and inspired by hearing that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I know my doctor, when I went back to the doctor after I came off of 10 pharmaceuticals, had switched to cannabis and other natural treatments, and walked in without an arm crutches or a wheelchair. And he said to me, I wanted to tell you to come off of some of those drugs, but I could lose my license if I do that because you have these diagnoses. And that's when I realized how fucked up the whole system is, and knew that I had to do something, and have met so many, the people connected with cannabis. It's just, the vibe it's such a healing vibe, like all over the country. We connect, and we're all working on the same thing, really. We need to end prohibition and deschedule. That's the only way that everyone will find some access. And we're all fighting for that. And I was on this emotional roller coaster listening to Stacy and I know Glenn's story. And we have to keep talking about it, keep making change and doing our projects and connecting with each other. It's the only way forward.
Amen, Wendy.
Yeah.
Well, Kristen, do you want to tell us about you and your projects and everything?
Hi, you guys. So I know we're cutting close and stuff, so I'm gonna talk fast because there's a lot I could talk to you guys about right now. First of all, I'm gonna tell you why I'm here and how I got here. My father, Richard Giles Floor, he grew so much weed in Montana. He helped get the laws passed out there. He went into business with five other people who were like growers and legislators and a medical marijuana attorney. They grew. They had 5 stores. Well, 2011, listen up, the federal government, we don't really know this, but when Obama was president, and no other presidencies did they do this, but in 2011, they took out about 80 different medical marijuana stores. We've been talking about Lance Galore. There's quite a bit of plant prisoners right now who are still incarcerated from those raids. Lance Galore was one of them. He got raided the same time my family got raided. So long story short, they didn't allow state laws in federal court. And so my family, my mom and dad had no defense in the court system. They threw out the fact that they were helping people, the fact that the laws had passed in Montana and they were following those laws. All that didn't matter. And it didn't matter that my father was extremely, extremely sick. So I'm just going to say, like, after fighting his case for a while, he was trying to go to trial, but they won't let him go to trial because all of a sudden he had gotten dementia. So he couldn't recall events, and they just wouldn't allow him to go to trial. So they forced him to take a deal. Well, 4 months into his sentence, my father, who had already suffered a few broken ribs from his first jail visit that they took him at, he ended up 4 months into a federal sentence, he died. And let me get to that, because while he was dying, he was begging for help for 4 months. He was like, oh my God, my stomach, it hurts so bad. And they just ignored him. The nurses would come in the middle of the night and say, oh, Richard, get off the floor. Mind you, he'd fallen off the floor onto the floor because he had dementia. Well, he also had osteoporosis. So when he'd hit the floor, his ribs would break. When he died, he had a broke collarbone, 5 different broken ribs, and a broken clavicle. On top of that, he was growing cancer in his stomach. And that was the cause of his death, was colon cancer. But for 4 months, the nurses accused him of faking it. So after the 4 months, they transported him. They transported him into a different jail. And last time I heard from him, he was like, okay, Chris, they got me here, and I think they're going to be good to me here this time. I'll call you in a couple days. Well, a couple days later, my father called, or no, my father didn't call. The U.S. Marshals called me, and they said, your father has suffered from 4 major heart attacks. Mind you, he was on heart medicines, 32 of them, 32 different medicines altogether, not necessarily just heart medicines, but his autopsy showed he was only on 3. So for the 4 months that he was in prison, they're also neglecting him by not giving him his medicines. So he had 2 major heart attacks in transport, fell to the ground. I had to rush out to Las Vegas when my father was laying on a bed, guarded by 2 federal U.S. Marshals, and take my father off of life support while he was still shackled to the bed. And what's really disturbing about it is that I hadn't seen my father for the 4 months that he was in prison, because he was in Montana. And when I had saw him, all the life was gone out of him. He was barely holding on, but he literally stayed alive, I'm sure just to see me again, just so that they didn't kill him. So anyhow, I had to take him off life support. And I could say this without tears because I've been telling the story for over 7 years. As they took the covers off my dad, I realized that he was still chained to the bed. And this was my bestest friend. It wasn't just my father. This was my best friend in the world. So I walked out of the hospital just devastated, figuring, okay, well, how am I going to tell my mom that they just killed my dad, who was in federal prison too for working for my dad's company? They wouldn't let me. I tried to call the jail that night. They wouldn't let me. The next morning she called me and I had to tell her what happened to my father. They wouldn't even let her out for the funeral. So she sat in federal prison her whole federal sentence. At that point, the very next morning, after I took my father off life support, I decided, I was on a radio show, actually a cannabis community radio show called me and said, hey, can you come on and tell what's going on? And I was in tears and I was in shock and I just didn't know what to do. So I called into that radio show. And from that point on, I have been an activist for every last one of the plant prisoners that I know of that my father left behind. My father died in a private prison, so I'm active against mass incarceration and slavery. After my father died, I went to my dad's business partner, Chris Williams. He went to trial, and I went to his trial, and 3 of my dad's other business partners snitched on my dad in federal court right in front of me. I was devastated. And then they had the nerve to not get no jail time at all, while my mom worked for the company, refused to snitch, and went to prison and was basically punished because she took the money and put it in the, so one of the charges was money laundering. Okay, so then after my dad died, my dad's business partner went to trial and lost. That's when I met the Human Solution. That's when I met Stacy, and I got on the big green bus for 10 days. And I just got so much support from that and so much love from that trip that I was just hooked on activism for life. I met Stephanie Landa on that bus. Joe Grumbine. In fact, I soon became the vice president for the Human Solution for a few years. That didn't work out. And so me and Mindy and Eugene started a group called VOW, the Voices of the Cannabis War, where we write about the prisoners. We had our articles in High Times Magazine, Northwest Leaf, the Vega Canna Mag. I'm a public speaker. I speak at all the hemp fests around the area. I do every single thing I can to get them out. Now, after all these years, I'm currently working as a national educator for Freedom Grow, which what Freedom Grow does is we raise commissary money. We are supporting over 60 prisoners right now. I think the exact number is 67. A lot of them are serving life. Some of them are only serving a couple years. But what we do is we get people who want to donate money, especially businesses, because it's a tax write-off. So they can donate to our 501c3, and then we load their commissary. So like, let's take Craig Cecil, for example. I know his story very well. In fact, I used to have a radio show that he used to call in for a couple years as well. Craig Cecil, about 18 years ago or so, when he started off in prison. Well, when they started slavery in prison, where they forced them to work, he was making about 10 cents an hour. And it's been about, I think, 15 years or so, 12, 13, 14, 15 years. And he's making a little over $1 an hour now, making military uniforms for the government. In the meantime, he's being bullied and neglected by prison guards and people, other things like that. So one thing I do is educate about the prisoners. What's going on in there? Why are they there? Well, I'm going to say something like this. The federal government, they have a 98% conviction rate. So that means you're going to plead out or you're going to go to trial. And if you go to trial, you're most likely not going to win because they got the very best prosecutors. They're not going to lose to your attorneys. I promise you that. We'll take Lance Gore, for example. He went through a couple different attorneys. In fact, a couple of attorneys even left him in the middle of his trial because they don't want the loss. They can't win the feds. It just doesn't work unless you take a deal. So as soon as a defendant wants to go to trial, they dump you, pretty much, is the way I see it. That's how I look at it. But so anyhow, they have a 98% conviction rate. And then they have these mandatory minimum laws so that if you don't make a deal and you go to trial and then you lose, which a lot of our plant prisoners has, they're forced to give you the mandatory minimum, which I'm going to bring up a prisoner right now by the name of John Knock, who's serving 2 life sentences plus 20 years. Okay, how does that happen? And why did he get so much time? Well, that's another thing we got to talk about. We got to talk about how come our people are serving life sentences still. Well, because back in the 80s and the 90s, when it was extremely illegal, like rest in peace, Gary Sheppard, who got shot down for growing it on US land. That's the risk you took by growing this plant back then. So we had to have it imported. And a lot of those people who had it imported are still serving life sentences today. How you can help: 1, know your jury rights. Know if you're ever called to jury duty. It is your job. When you vote a law in, you vote these laws in, and we follow these laws. Well, jury duty, that's when we could kick these bad laws out. I know Glenn might be having a trial coming up. Well, guess what? If he goes to trial, the only way he's going to be saved is if one of the jurors say not guilty. Okay, their job as a juror, and this is what they're not going to tell you when you go to jury. And guess what? Lance would be free today. Chris Williams would be free today. John Knock would be free today. A whole bunch of people would be free today if just one juror knew their jury rights. Know that you're not called to vote on whether or not they broke the law, because they clearly broke the law. They're going to put a whole bunch of evidence that says, oh, they broke the law. But the juror's job is not just to judge if the law has been broke, but judge the law. If it's a bad law, not guilty. Then they can't keep taking these cases to trial, and they're not going to stop taking these cases and prosecuting them because they can't get convictions. So that's the number one thing we need to do, is just vote not guilty and go to trial. Not snitch. That's what the government has against us, is the jurors and snitches. Without evidence and without snitches, they don't have much. They can't convince a jury to vote guilty if they don't have evidence against you. So that's what I want to say. I'm the national educator for Freedom Grow. Right, and so that's all the education I'm going to give to you guys today, because I know we're got a lot of people. But what I want to do right now is show you guys a project we got working on. We like I said, we raised commissary money for over 65 plant prisoners. Right, I think it's 67 is what's on our list. We raised their commissary money. Not only do we raise commissary money, but we also send them newsletters and we send them things. And on our February newsletter, we're going to send them a Valentine's Day. Well, hold on, I'm trying to find it here. We're going to send them a Valentine's Day newsletter, and we need your help, because I'm going to tell you guys, they sit in prison and a lot of their family members have left them. A lot of them don't have anybody, and they depend on us to be there for them. So in our newsletter coming up, we are trying to send them Valentine's Day wishes. And right in here, I have a Freedom Grow, and we are a nonprofit 501c3, which is very unique. But if you could write a poem for our plant prisoners and send a love message, it can be a short poem or a short love message. I know I'm not good at poems, so I'm just going to write them a message. We will put your newsletter in your message in our newsletter so they could read what you write. So if you guys can get this done by the 25th and get it to me, you guys can get it to Carrie Cannon, you guys get it to Stacy. Basically, and we will make sure the prisoners hear what you have to say about them. We've gotten a few submissions already from HempFest, all that type of stuff, a couple other groups. We're just really excited to be there for them. So that's who I am. I'm Kristen Floor, and I just really believe that you go to jail for a plant. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is just to literally help end prohibition and free all of our people.
Wow, Kristen, thank you so much for coming in tonight. I really appreciate your story. Carrie, again, thank you. Wow. Thank you for.
Oh, you're most welcome. These are important stories. People need to hear them.
They do.
Hey, Kristen, what's the website people can go to find out more information on jury nullification?
So there is this website. FIJA, they're called the Fully Informed Jury Association. FIJA, the lady, the executive director of FIJA, her name is Kirsten Tynan, and I work with her on a regular basis. She does everything in her she works for FIJA, and her job is to educate the whole nation, because it's not just cannabis cases that we need to vote not guilty for. There's a lot of homeless people that are being tried for homeless crimes. It's illegal to grow lettuce on a federal level, I believe, and collect rainwater. There's a lot of just really bad laws out there. So if you ever need to know, in fact, I would just strongly suggest everybody know what their jury rights immediately. Go to FIJA, FIJA.org. It's a wonderful website for jury nullification.
And it's information we should all be sharing with everyone we know. And we shouldn't be trying to avoid jury duty.
And I want to say one thing real fast too, is that jury nullification, it helped end slavery at one point when the first part of slavery came around, and also helped in alcohol prohibition. When there used to be laws that said you had to own slaves. And when people said, no, I'm not following these laws anymore, I don't want to own a slave. In trial, that's what got those laws thrown out of the courtroom, is by people refusing to convict. And they don't want you to know what your jury rights are. They want you to come in there. They're going to tell you can't go on the computer. You can't research this case. They're going to give you a free lunch. They're going to tell you your job is to judge those laws. And if they broke those laws. They don't want you to go and find out what your jury rights are. They don't want you to know those things. You have to know those before you enter the courtroom. And then if they know you know your jury rights, they may not even let you in that courtroom as a juror. It's tough. They need convictions. It's what keeps modern day slavery alive. And I'm going to mention another thing. My father died in a private prison. So if you can't work for them, when our prisoners get sick, not even just private prisons, federal prisons, they all make profits off of our prisoners. If you can't work for them, like my father, they're not going to take you to the hospital. They're just literally going to let you die. So we got to end mass incarceration. And to do that, we need to vote guilty, not just on cannabis charges, but on all non-violent charges. Me and my mother sued the federal government, and we lost. It's impossible, because they're like the feds in the private prison. They're like brothers and sisters. So you can't really find justice. You just got to know beforehand that vote not guilty.
And I'd like to add with private prisons, a fact a lot of people don't seem to be aware of is they have government contracts where the government says they will keep beds full at a certain capacity. And if they don't, then the private prisons sue the government, and we, the taxpayers, are paying for that.
Yep. They have numbers. We have a good friend of the Human Solution, good friend of Freedom Grow. His name is Dr. David Allen. In fact, he went to trial and he won. It's very rare to win, but he won. He calls us, he's a heart surgeon, and he got in trouble for recommending the plant, I guess, to too many people down in California at one point. And he calls us all literally roaming slaves. They're literally, they got to make some numbers, and who's it going to be? Our plant prisoners are very easy targets.
Kristen, I just want to tell you, I love you so much.
Love you more. Oh my God.
And you're so badass. And I just love everything that you said. And you got me emotional, not because you were emotional, but you make me think about just how badass all these people are that sacrifice like themselves to go out and keep fighting. Kristen reached out to us. She reached out to the Human Solution to see about doing this journey for justice for her dad's partner after her dad died in prison, and why her mom was in prison for being a bookkeeper. And her dad died in August, 2012. And she was rallying with other women with the Human Solution. Like, she was reaching out to people like me and the Human Solution to get a journey for justice going for her dad's partner. And if you travel on a cannabis in a drug war, it gets a lot of police attention. It gets pulled over a lot of times. You're constantly educating. And I watched I witnessed people like my baby cousin who saw his dad die in front of his face, and see Kristen who had to just take her dad off life support. And they got to grieve together on the bus, and seeing them again and again be so strong. Like, because people don't understand. They see Kristen out there and she is a badass and she is a warrior and she doesn't miss a beat and she can educate those communities and stuff. The strength like that it takes sometimes, because we all have to deal with PTSD, and we all have to like block our own fears. Like people like me, like I never wanted to talk to people in public. That's something that I had to conquer, because there was things that needed to be said and taken to the public. And that's why I just like got me emotional. Well, I guess I am emotional right now in my life, but just hearing Kristen talk, and like to just hear how she's just like so on it, and how she can just deliver all that without being emotional. It was February 2013 that we did the Journey for Justice. And, me and her, a lot of that connection grew because she was grieving her dad on my bus while she was giving it all she got to educate everybody else along the way.
You guys, I just want to say, I'd be in the back of your bus, all covered up with blankets, just bawling my eyes out because I didn't miss my dad so much. And so I stay sitting here like all this good stuff about me. Honestly, you guys, everything I'm saying right now came from Stacy and Stephanie Landa and Joe Grumpine, all on that journey of justice. So like it really it shaped my whole future as activism. And thank you, Stacy, for having me on your bus.
Thank you, because you shape me too every day. All of you do, and I appreciate being on here with all of you guys. Like, we are all in this together. We keep proving that again and again, that we're in this together no matter what.
You're all amazing, and that's exactly why I picked you all.
Something I want to say thank you for everybody that's on here. Everybody here has done a picture or sent a letter on our behalf for our case. And it's kind of crazy to sit here and think that, our case started back October 31st of 2017. And just to know the things that we've done before, we started going through this case, and to where we are now in this case. I do have a few updates. Peggy just got her results back from her last set of MRIs, and this is 2 sets of MRIs now in a row that has come back where she has new brain lesion and plaque going down her spine. And it's just as simply, the lack of access here in the state of Ohio.
Along with that, she told me recently that the amount of RSO or FICO, whatever you want to call it, that she would need to improve her health is more than what is considered a legal supply for a patient in Ohio.
Right. And that's just, that's what we're allowed. And see, I really hate, I really hate having to say that, we're allowed to have an amount that,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
The amount that we're allowed to have in a 90-day supply, Peggy needs in like a month supply.
That's why
I mean,
legalization is a trap. All these rules are random and they can't possibly apply to every human being. And I'm so sorry, Glenn. I think I interviewed you on my show like a year and a half. To see that we're still here is so upsetting, maddening, saddening, all at once. And but know that everyone on here, I think we're with you still. And
and I greatly appreciate that. And what's really sad and what's really crazy is, Wendy, we're no further today in this process and in this case than we was when I was on your show. I think we just had motions put in for dismissal then, and just on January 6th, we had another round of motions put in to dismiss. So I don't know This
And,
makes today, well, today is now, it's been 810 days that we have been going through this case.
and for two
Mm.
patients, two sick people, it's so stressful, on top of the illnesses, you have all this stress. And, my heart goes out to both of you.
Thank you.
We're,
Thank
we're
you.
still,
I greatly
we're all
appreciate
still
that.
here.
I just want to pop, some of you heard my opinion about this before we went live, but now that we're on live, I just want to throw out that what's up, Ohio? I don't care what's legal and what's not. Like,
Go,
how
Stace.
many CBD stores are out there, so-called activists? If you are sharing these people's stories to get attention on your efforts and your followings, then you need to be putting forth the effort of getting Peggy some medicine, whether it's THC, CBD, whatever the fuck. Even if it's essential oils, I don't care what you're connected to. These people are warriors in a drug war that you are profiting from and also benefiting from if you are doing
Yeah.
the activism efforts or sharing the post and not reaching out personally to these people to say, how are you and how can I help you? And then doing everything you can to help these people, because I know there are a lot of people in Ohio with the ability to help these people. I know this. And so that is why it is disgusting to me to learn after 100 and Glenn, you'll have to say it again.
800, 810 days.
810 days, and Peggy, this woman, reports on Facebook on a regular basis her health. Her husband, regular basis, reports on her health, and she doesn't have access flowing into her. What up, Ohio? You guys are making yourselves look bad, because if they were in Michigan or Arizona or California or Oregon or Washington, they wouldn't be worried about medicine for Peggy. And I am disgusted to learn that tonight, that Peggy does not even have a full supply of CBD oil on a regular basis.
Now, I have a
Because
Well, it's
question
it
though.
not.
could be any
I,
of you
I have a
at
question.
any
I have
time.
actually sent her CBD, my CBD vape juice that I make. I have sent her some. But question, I
Thank you.
thought she couldn't have THC right now.
No, we have, and see, I was getting to that in this
Here's the
case.
crazy part.
Yeah, here's
And
yeah. In
one
this
more thing,
case,
my phone is about to die and I'm nowhere near a charger. I tried charging it on the way. So if I go away suddenly, thank you so much for having me. My phone is dead.
And
I'm
come
sorry.
back if
Please
you
go
the
ahead,
can.
thing
Glenn.
the thing in this case is the judge. Since we've been going through this case, the judge has
Just a
ruled
minute,
that we
Glenn.
were.
Glenn, let
Yes,
me
yes,
interrupt.
ma'am.
Anna, if you just turn your camera off, it'll save some battery. So if you just want to turn your camera off, that'll help us a little bit. Go ahead, Glenn. Sorry for interrupting.
He ruled in our case that we were, dual medical patients. We had our paperwork in order. He ruled that we were within law, even with what they confiscated from our home. And the kick thing on that is on our bond paperwork, the fifth bond rule states actually that we cannot be in any establishment that serves alcohol by the drink, but we are allowed to consume cannabis per doctor's order. The thing is the doctor has ordered her at the minimum, and this is the low side, and she's supposed to be on a day-to-day basis, roughly about 5,500 milligrams of THC, and there's just no way. And trust me, Stacy, we have reached out to a lot of Ohio activists, and it just, I don't know what happened. I do know we got this case, but it just seems that we did a lot for a lot of people and a lot of different organizations and a lot of different things to come to where we are now. Um, I I could not be an activist and allow that to happen. That's why we're fighting our case the way we're fighting our case, and still showing up for court for people, still writing letters, making the phone calls, because we just got to keep fighting, keep pushing forward. It really sucks that we're going through this case, and it has. Well, I'm gonna tell you, we're pretty close to out almost $80,000 since this case has started, and we don't know even how we've even done so far that we've done, and it's difficult to. It's just really hard to continue to reach out to these people, and it just falls on deaf ears. Like
It's not just with the donation
I,
of medicine, it's also with the activism. Like I became
right,
familiar with Glenn and
right.
Peggy. Peggy had posted something on the International Cannabis Patients Wall on Facebook asking for help. I didn't know her. That was the first time I learned of her existence. And I reached out to
Right.
her and, what's going on. And from the get-go, she provided me with facts that she backed up with documentation. I have, been working closely with them for a while now, researched everything, gone through the court records. These are honest to God, good people who are leaders, who are compassionate, who care about their community. And it's really a shame that this girl here in Washington is doing more than most of the activists in Ohio to help these patients out.
Right.
I'm,
And
I'm,
it's not so much about the, getting the medicine or the money that we need. We would
The
like
support.
court support. Yeah. We're
how
not
much
that
time
far,
are you guys?
That's why I
what's that?
send the photos to the court to have entered as evidence. I collect
Right.
photos for
Call the
Glenn and Peggy
prosecutor.
too. We send the support to the court.
We just
Whoops,
want more support. That's what we just want more support than what we have. I mean,
You need it.
we'll make do with what we're we're fighters, we're survivors, and we'll get through this. We just want more support.
It's a
As
war on
long as
all
we
of
continue to
us.
go forward, as long as we continue to move forward, we won't slide back. So that's the way we look at it.
Glenn, how much time are you guys facing?
If we were to get charged, convicted of all the what we have, it would stretch out to over 50 years apiece.
So I assume you guys are trying to take it all the way to trial? Is
Yeah,
that why it's
yeah.
dragging on and on?
Well, the biggest reason why it's really dragging on is because the prosecutor just um, won't give. Again, the judge ruled that we were within law. We did, and being dual patients, um, Michigan law at the time and Ohio law, they have to apply both laws and both programs to our case. And the judge with ruling those rules, with those three rulings that he made initially, our case should have been over as soon as he said that yes, we can use cannabis. Oh yes, you're within law, and oh yes, you're medical patients. That should have dismissed our case right then and there, and that was over 810 days ago. So I mean, I don't know what it is. It's not so much as us fighting it.
It's corruption in your county, from what I gather.
I feel like it's how they hold on to prohibition. They need prohibition to get a lot of the other things that they make money off of. They need prohibition to exist. Prohibition don't exist without prisoners.
They've made a lot of money off of us so far with this case, between the two of us. So
And
I don't know how much more.
If you look up Matt Fox, the prosecutor, you can connect dirty to him. Like, he's protected child pedophiles before, why he tries to send patients to prison for 50 years. It's disgusting.
There's a website that it's called countycoverup.com. It's all about everything that is going on, and it's going on here in Mercer County. I think there's a quote on there. They made a joke of it. They were recorded making a joke that, well, this is Mercer County, and this is our laws. This is Mercer County laws. So we're just
That's
not
kind of
gonna
the
stand
same
for the
shit they
corruption.
told with my uncle. This is a pro-police, just so you know, this is a pro-police state and a pro-police court. What the fuck does that mean? You're telling us right in the beginning that we don't have a chance at any justice, that you can get away with murder because you're
we
a
just, we're
pro-police
not gonna,
state and a
yeah,
pro-police court.
we're not gonna roll over, and that's the biggest thing. They've made a couple of offers to us, but the offers were really horrible offers to begin with. I mean, so I mean, it's we just can't allow these people to continue to. I mean, that's why we've got to stand up and fight and stand up for one another and stand together. Solidarity is strong. The more people that show up at a court case, the more people that stand up and show up at a court, less chances that they have to run amok and do what they want, because there's going to be people there watching what they do. Get media involved. And it's really not hard to find out what's going on. I mean, go down to your local courthouse, pull up the local court view in your county. It's really easy to find out what's going on there. I'll guarantee in your county right now, there's somebody going through a case that's involved with cannabis, some kind of possession or something. And it's minute, and it's sad that even in legal states, and I hate that word. I hate legalization. That's a horrible, because you look at what we had, without any legalization. Yeah, it was pretty shitty, but you get legalization, and that's even worse. What we need to work for and strive for and push for is rescheduling. That is the key. Legalization is it gives you a whole another set of laws and a whole another set of penalties. Reschedule. Cut like lettuce. I mean,
It's
a
just
plan, it's
taxed and
nature.
regulated.
Right. That's the biggest thing we need to push for and talk about is rescheduling. The time for legalization is way past, because look at how many people are still going to jail and how many people are in prison because of legalization. That's what we got to think about and look at. Rescheduling is the key. Rescheduling cannabis, and hopefully
repealing.
yeah. So hopefully, and even in these legal states, we the people need to see what we can do about amending the law that allows us. There's that word again, that allows us to have access to cannabis. Seems about something in there, the clause to remember our plant prisoners in those states.
And I think that Kristen could share a few examples of people that were currently incarcerated for cannabis and who have been freed by letter writing campaigns and whatnot. Can you tell us a few people?
Let's just talk about Thomas Landreth, who everybody, our whole Washington group, even Carrie last year, the year before, well, last year was the celebration year, but the year before and the year before, me, Carrie, Miggy, Tony, Stacy last year, she was there for the celebration. We gathered.
Tracy.
Yeah, Tracy, Kurt. What we do every year, it's part of our advocacy, is we get letters signed for prisoners on a federal level and on a state level. And we worked really hard, and we got about 500 prisoners signed for Thomas Landreth, who was serving a de facto life sentence. He had a brain tumor. It's about the size of a golf ball. He was serving 20 years, which if your lifespan is shorter than your sentence, then it's called de facto life. That means that you're going to die there. So he was serving de facto life over a gram, or not a gram, 3 grams of a joint, basically. And he was getting raped in prison and beat, and the situation was just getting really, really uncontrollable for him. So we stepped in. Mindy got a whole bunch of attention for him, wrote some articles. Miggy wrote some articles about him. We made some images. We got a whole bunch of letters signed. We sent them to the pardons attorney in Oklahoma. And this year, a couple weeks before HempFest this year, we found out that the pardons attorneys decided to free him, and he's with his daughter now. And his daughter is a big, huge advocate for him. She helped him get free by coming to us like, hey, we need to throw a big deal with my dad home. So now she has her dad back, and it's just, life has been beautiful for them since. We've also helped free Tom Gears, who served 20 years in federal prison and had to go to Florida and serve another 20 years. Well, we worked with the prosecutors on his case. In fact, Eugene Fisher, who was serving a life sentence, he got out early because the government's shady, and he caught him on their shadiness. Anyway, he got out, he was a director of Human Solution as well. He left, started a radio show and Bow with us. And he met with the prosecutor. We wrote a book about him. We got all his family members to write letters, and within a year he was free. So that was another prisoner that got free just from heavy duty advocating. I do hate to say it though, that we have not had any federal prisoners. They're really hard on their federal laws. So that's the problem, is the federal laws. The state prisoners are, we still have a whole bunch of them, like Richard DeLisi, who is literally on his 30th year right now. He's 72 years old, and we've been begging the governor of Florida now to release him. We have had a letter writing campaign, a phone calling campaign now for at least the last 5 years. And he hasn't been free. So Stacy's real good friends with DeLisi's daughter. And, but yeah, we're working on DeLisi on a state level. We've had a few freed, but not enough.
What about Antonio Bascara?
Oh, Antonio, he wasn't freed by our efforts. He was actually freed because he served all 39 of his years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In fact, I'm about to show you guys something that's kind of sad right now about a prisoner, not Antonio. It's really hard to pronounce his name, but he died in prison not too long ago, serving his life sentence. And I just really want to bring some attention to him real fast. Messenger. I'm just looking for this real quick. This was page 2 of our newsletter that we sent out to our prisoners at Christmas. This was page 2, and on page 2, we had to put a rest in peace to Leonardo Hernandez Miranda. He was from Cuba. He was a Cuban refugee who was serving a life sentence for cannabis. He passed away on August 28, 2019 to severe health problems. He was 80 years old and had been locked away since he was 54 years old. Due to a language barrier, it made it hard for Leopoldo to fight for his freedom. Leopoldo will always be remembered as a hero to us, and we will never forget his sacrifices. So I'm going to tell you guys about Leopoldo. He couldn't speak English, so he couldn't advocate for a lot of help. And one of our advocates, Beth Curtis, whose brother is serving, John Knock is serving 2 life sentences plus 20 years. He had reached out to her about 10 years ago with a letter that just said help. And he's literally been dying in prison ever since. And so it's rest in peace, Leopoldo Hernandez Miranda. Just want to everybody remember him. But yeah, then there was also who just got out. I got it stuck. Antonio Bascara just served all 39 of his years in prison. In fact, you guys, I'm going to take you guys to our first page of our newsletter. It's kind of important because this is what's going on with our prisoners, and we actually communicate with them about it. This is page 1. Right here. And it's going to tell you guys right here, we had Paul Free, who was released, Jason Nelson, who was released after serving his 10 years, Antonio Bascara, who served his 39 years, Calvin Robinson, I want to tell you guys about him. He was served 30 years, and he was granted compassionate release, which is extremely hard to be granted compassionate release through our federal government. But his health problems are so severe that he's got these big, huge, massive lesions on his face right now they're cancerous and they're dripping pus out of them. And that's why he was freed. Patricia Albright served all her 5 years. And then again, Thomas Landreth, who I just talked to you guys about, who was freed. And to let you guys know, we, Freedom Grow, we send every one of our released prisoners $500. So we let them know, hey, we have $500 waiting for you too. Let's give them hope that they're getting freed. We also tell them what's going on in the community, and so that they're not in their loss. They know that we are out here. But that was page 1 of our newsletter.
And how can people donate to Freedom Grow?
So right now our website is down, but we're trying to get it back up. But you could go to our Facebook page and tell us you want to donate, and we can get you the address to send us a donation, or you could just literally just wait until our page is up. About our website's back up in a couple days. And Stacey, she's part of Freedom Grow too. All of us, even Carrie, we all work on behalf of Freedom Grow to bring attention to Freedom Grow, because it is literally, a lot of people don't even have family to put commissary money on their books. And we send them $50 to $100 every month to 2 to 3 months, because they only make 10 cents an hour. And so if they had to work for their own things, they wouldn't be able to have anything. So our money really helps what little, their family can't send them money all the time and stuff. So our money helps
And
that we send them. So
these things in prison are expensive. I saw a post that Stephanie Landa put up the other day talking about like how much some basic items are. I was blown away.
yeah,
It's
I know.
ridiculous.
It's like things you buy at the dollar store, like Top Ramen is like a couple dollars in jail. Tylenol is way more expensive. And if they have to work for 8 cents an hour to make that, it's impossible. It's just literally impossible. So the image I'm showing with you guys right now, that's, we get things from the outside of the community. So everybody listening right now, I invite you to send us a message. It doesn't even have to be a poem, and we will put it in there so they can read what you have to say. And I know we've gotten letters back from them that says it makes them feel better when they know that the community is out there for them. So if you guys don't want to write them letters, you can use us as your voice, as your source to let them know how you feel. I urge you guys to please
Can I break in here
brings
really
nothing but
fast?
joy to our
Then?
hearts to tell prisoners how much you guys love them.
I want to say thank you very much, you guys, for having me on. It is a wonderful panel and great group of people. It's 1:30 here for me, and
Oh my
it's
gosh.
been a really, really
Poor Glenn.
long day. Yeah, it's been a really long day for me. So, man, I really greatly appreciate you guys listening to my story, and I just ask you guys just to hop over there on the Human Solution International, come check out what we're doing there. We also have, it's www.walk4change.us. We've got a walk that's going to start in Paris, California, or somewhere thereabouts, and we're going to try to gather 1 million people to end in Washington. So come out and join us. Come check us out and see what we're doing. And again, find a local chapter near you, or somebody that you could, need to support. There's somebody that can use support, and if not, reach out to us and we'll show you what you can do. And again, thank you very much for having me on, you guys.
Thank you, Glenn, and thank you for all that you and Peggy continue to do for others despite what you're going through yourselves.
We have to. We have to keep pushing and fighting, and it just seems like Ohio fails to. It seems like a lot of people here in Ohio got comfortable with the fact that we're allowed to have access to cannabis, and they kind of stopped doing things, and it just kind of, I don't know, kind of really sad that it's the way it is.
Ohio, quit being selfish and scared.
Stand
Right,
up.
thank you.
Thanks for being
But
on,
again,
Glenn. It's good
thank
to
you.
catch up with you.
Yes, Glenn,
you,
thank
guys.
you for being on, and we'll definitely have you back on. We'll definitely be touching bases again. Thank you.
Give our love to Peggy too.
I
Yes,
will. I
please
will
do.
absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Vote not guilty for Glenn and Peggy. No victim, no crime.
And I put up a call to action and for Peggy and Glenn to call Judge Ingram, who is the judge over this case, and to leave a message for him at his office to encourage him to dismiss all charges, drop these cases. It's ridiculous. Wendy, I have a question for you.
Yes.
We have worked on a couple of call to actions together. Do you have any updates or news?
You're right. So thank you so much for teaching me about how to do this.
You're welcome.
And to, I don't mind going to court when I know about their court dates and trying to gather up people. We have a pretty good following, so I can get some people to go to court. And actually when Glenn was talking, I was thinking, you know, Ohio isn't really that far. So if I know ahead of time for the next one, maybe we can head up there, you know.
I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, so Sky Pollard is awaiting court date. Like I said, here in Arkansas, they passed medical. It's a terrible initiative. And he didn't have the money to get a card. He has PTSD and anxiety. He was had it on him in the car. He was pulled over. So it's supposed to be the lowest priority. But if they pull you over for something else, like you didn't put your blinker on, like something really silly, right? I mean, I guess that's unsafe. It's not silly, but you know what I mean? So,
Right.
and he had a joint in the car. So the fines are exorbitant. It's like $2,000, you know. He's a musician and, you know, doesn't make a lot of money. And so he just really, honestly, for him, knowing that other people actually cared enough, people, not just me, but you being out of state, he's like, oh, wow, these people actually care about me, made a huge difference to him. And we helped him to get his medical card. He didn't know that we did that. So that made another connection for him. And
Awesome.
I mean, people donated. We held a rally here in Fayetteville and collected donations to help him to obtain a lawyer who told him that getting his medical card and showing that he does have a diagnosis but just couldn't afford it before will really help him. So we're just waiting for the next court date, basically. Parley Jones, we started working on, she's in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
But she had been pulled over in Pennsylvania. They have a continuance on her, actually. And I don't know what the next date is. And I'm trying to think who was the other, it's late and my brain is like, who was the other? There was
I'm
another one.
trying to remember.
So Nathan Hudson, it was his son, and his name is escaping me at the moment. And we also helped raise money to help him to get an attorney at that rally that we had at Prairie Street Live, which also was part of the Walk for Change and Bulldozer Health. Like I love it that we all work together and educate each other about how we can keep moving forward and helping people, whether it's simply that they need help to obtain medicine or understand health and wellness, or that they have been arrested. And people here also, they did not understand that even though it's the lowest priority, it is not decriminalized. You know, so they just educating the community here, they're like, well, wait a minute, they're not supposed to arrest people for that. Even for growing, it's supposed to be the lowest priority. But if they come to your home for something else, you will be charged and put in jail. It's not decriminalized. So, you know, letting people know all that is so important. And yeah, so that's the update I have right now. They're waiting for a court date also on Nathan's son as well. So
I hope you have some good news to share in the future about them all.
Yeah, me too. I hope so. Definitely have raised a lot of awareness here though, and it makes people fight harder because they realize it could be them like at any moment, if nothing else, you know, right? And and just understanding that, and yeah, so we'll keep working hard and educating and pushing forward.
I want to come visit you on the cannabis, Wendy.
I was thinking
we
that.
need to come. We need to do some stuff together.
I would love that. I would love that. I was thinking that as you were talking about it. So yeah, let's definitely connect and talk about what we can do.
Yeah, you would love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like good shockwaves. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, fun. So I need to go. Actually, it's getting late here too. But if people want to visit our website, it's bulldozerhealth.org. And I have a radio, TV show and podcast called The Wendy Love-Ed Show with Topher Kogan. And we just started season 3. It's lots of fun. My co-host is a comedian also. So we kind of like roll all the things together. Like I was talking about with the festival, we have a segment called The Green Zone, and we've interviewed we interviewed Peggy and Glenn and Carrie and lots of people involved with these projects. In our Green Zone segment, we have a health segment where we talk about some alternative health method or interview a physician. and or somebody who's found health success with alternative health methods. And then we have music and art and comedy. And so it's kind of like a variety show, and it's fun, but there's a lot of education rolled in there. So check that out too, please. It's on all the major podcasting formats. It airs at Rhode Island College. It airs in Boston and in Arkansas. So trying to think, is anything else? And if you want to check out the festival, it's thegreenheartfestival.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on here, Wendy. And send me all your information, and I will post it all underneath this video so that everybody has all of your guys' contact and all your information. I'll make sure that everybody will find this, because people will be continuing to watch this video, and new listeners come on all the time. And this is how we can continue to educate people. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And Carrie, thank you for inviting me. It was great to meet
you, Wendy.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Can't wait to meet you in person at the festival.
Yes, I can't wait. No, I feel like I already have, but it hasn't happened yet, but soon.
I know.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, guys. Well,
you gotta kick us off. We'll be on all night if you
We'll talk about any prohibition forever.
You want to go for another 15? You want? What do you want to?
Sure.
What do you want to do? It's totally up to you guys.
I
feel like I'm on like my second wind here. Like, you guys have got me so inspired. Like, holy shit. Like,
yeah, I like Carrie's idea of you asking us some questions, Tara.
Man.
I just want to remind everybody before, like, any of your, like, all the stories that we're talking about a plant that has healed and helped thousands and thousands of people even before any medical marijuana laws. And we're talking about a plant that our federal government has known its medical abilities and its safety. The ethics of plant prohibition and cannabis prohibitions is ridiculous. We are talking about these people going to court are our soldiers in this war that was declared on us, the people, based on lies and bullshit. And the people that are behind bars, those are our prisoners of war. Like, I can't say that and remind people enough that these people are in prison and these people are going through these things, and there are still people with cancer, Alzheimer's, MS, that do not have safe access to a plant that can do so much for no good reason. We do a lot of activism, but the government knows. They have patents on it. They understand that this plant is safe, it's non-toxic, and it helps people. And if that is an evidence of how corrupt our government is and how it needs to change from working from corporations like big pharma and big oil and all those things, and the government has to start working for we the people again, the evidence is in cannabis prohibition and what the truth continues to reveal itself as we work to change these laws and work to get the prisoners out. We are reminded again and again that our own government continues to fight us on setting this plant and our people free. And it's our own, I mean, how much more proof do they have the proof, they have the education. So it is time for the American people to get angry. It's not a conspiracy if it's happening. It is real. It's real. We need to get angry and demand better from not only our local governments, but our federal governments, or they don't deserve jobs anymore. And that's all.
Well said, Stacy. And pharmaceuticals are killing one person every 19 minutes in this country. So, I mean, just the whole played out, we're keeping you safe by keeping you away from this plant that your body has a system to work with. It's, it's just all BS. And I think
they're fighting, like they are just trying to get people in trouble for being medicated. They keep taking us to court over DUI laws throughout the country. Something, and it all works out, like the hemp industry, they are having to, like, a lot of them understand the drug war, but a lot of them that don't are learning about the drug war because their crops are being burnt to the ground, like they're growing something toxic if it tests 1% higher than it's supposed to be to qualify for hemp. Still won't get you high, but it's enough to devastate farmers and their business and livelihoods again and again. It's a war on us.
And not only that, those poor farmers that this is happening to don't even have access to have their fields test correctly anyways. They don't even have access to the tests to even be able to do it right to begin with. Like all these laws are just not for the farmer to begin with. It's not for the plant and it's not for the people.
Yeah, and you guys know what's really confusing is that we have two sets of laws. And that's why people don't understand that too. Like, how could they go to jail? It's legal. I heard it was legal on this level. It's still a federal one. It's still scheduled just like heroin. It's still up there. If you get caught with heroin, you're gonna get the same type of sentences as if you get caught with marijuana. And that's what's extra confusing is the two different sets of laws.
I'll give mad props to the youth because, standing in lines, I like to take advantage of like event lines, like the High Times Cup events. Their lines are sometimes like 2 and 3 hours long, and, have posters of our prisoners and letters for them to sign. And I learned that a lot of these young people, they're learning for the first time in their lives that there's people even in prison for pot. And when they learn that people are in life for prison, I have seen like groups of like college kids that are all about having fun get tears in their eyes and write really meaningful messages because they're like, they get to tell me like, wow, what? That's fucked up. We're about to go in this event and literally buy weed for legal weed. And there's people from here in prison too. Or we're smoking joints in this line about to go smoke legal weed and there's still people in prison for pot. Yeah, and those people that you're going to be smoking weed from all day, they're making a lot of freaking money in an industry of the same plant whose kids, we have children. Ashley DeLisi was 4, the same age as my cousin when her dad was taken away from prison. She has had a lot of the, like, not the same, but her lot, like, life's a struggle anyway. You add the impact of taking a family member out of your life over the drug war, and you're supposed to be raised in a country that praise it, like that boasts freedom and stand up and salute a flag and all this jazz, when you know that something so unjust is devastating your world and your life and your family every single day, every day. Like, it's hard. Like, oh, like you have to be a warrior in your own country because the same government that you're supposed to even pay taxes to murders and imprisons your people for lies and business deals, not anything that's justice for the people. We wouldn't have the cancer rates, we wouldn't have the deaths, we wouldn't have the suicides, we wouldn't have the environmental problems, we wouldn't have so many problems that we as a people are suffering and are dealing with in this country if they weren't so hell-bent on warring us to death over a cannabis plant. And even though we are ending pieces of prohibition for big money gains, that does not mean we are ending the war on cannabis. And until that is done, every single American, everybody should care about doing something, whether it's advocating for prisoners, whether it's sharing education about this plant with patients, whether it's talking to legislators, whether it's showing up for court supports, every single person needs to be doing something to set, this is a war on the people. And everybody needs to digest that I don't care if you've ever smoked a joint in your life, your world is being affected by cannabis prohibition every day in some way, no matter what, because these lies and prohibition have like, bleh, they've intoxified everything. I shut up because I figured that I was just blabbing while everybody else was wanting to talk.
I was waiting
No,
for someone else to.
I wanted to share all the pictures on Carrie's site. So please go ahead. And if you guys want to talk about the pictures, I'll bring them up one at a time.
I was so blessed to escape the snowstorm and not be where I usually stay at. And I was near Stacy's cannabis, and oh my goodness, the first time I walked up to her bus, you could just feel the energy coming off of it. You could feel so much love, and it's hard to describe. I got super emotional. It was one of the most,
Oh, I want to share a picture of the bus.
Yeah, do it.
Like, you want me to? It's one of my favorite pictures.
Go for it.
Hold on, I'm fine. I know exactly. I just saw it. I was like, oh, I'm not going to share it, but now I am, because it is one of my favorite memories of the bus. Since you're talking about the bus.
You're one of my favorite memories about the bus.
You are. Oh, hold on. I'm looking for it right.
So while she looks, I'll just say real quick, the cannabis is up where Carrie, close to Carrie, and she's about to get mechanical repairs, but also an overhaul and get all ready to tour again. And I'm really excited. We are putting some awesome things together. Working with Hemp Inc. to create. Oh, that is one of my favorite pictures of the cannabis. You look so proud. I love that picture.
Yeah, I love
it. I love it.
I felt like a bus driver for 5 seconds.
I love it. You're not supposed to tell it. Everybody's supposed to think that you drove the bus when they see that picture. Like, you're not supposed to tell on yourself. But yeah, we're putting together a tour. We're teaming up with Hemp Inc. to make a convoy out of it with a couple more buses. And I don't know how it's all going to work out, but a couple other activists might get their buses involved too, it sounds like. And we're going to really do all that we can to bring the shockwaves in the upcoming months. 2020 is needed to remind anybody thinking that they're going to get into office that they need to be about ending cannabis prohibition, or they need to worry about finding another job.
And I think we, the people, need to start holding our elected people accountable, not just think, okay, we have to suffer through this until whatever the next election cycle is. We need to get on their asses, make them do their job, represent us. We are paying their salary.
That's such a good point. And, before we went live, I just want to bring up a really good point. We were talking about, I said, does it really matter if we call? Like, it doesn't cost us anything to make a phone call these days, right? Or it doesn't cost us anything to write a letter. And what was your guys' answer to me? What was that answer?
It's free.
It's free, and it matters. It matters, right? They help.
It makes a difference.
It makes a difference. A phone call can make a difference.
Absolutely. And one call to
action. It does make a difference. If you guys can just imagine, like, being at an office and the phone blowing up all day from the same person. Even if you're the receptionist or the administrative assistant or whatever, you're going to get so aggravated that that's all that you're doing is answering. That's what I want. If you take those 2 minutes to make a phone call, you're being a part of a movement that is going to get attention in that office. And then, yes, people just like you and me that work for these people, they're going to be like, they're going to ask, why am I getting all these phone calls? Then they're going to find out the truth and like, why are we worried about putting patients in prison for 50 years? Is this really worth our money and my job? And, you know, like it is, yes, it is worth it when we call, because I mean, that's the goal. Like the Washington hotline to get Lance Glore clemency. Like, can you imagine how many phone calls the White House gets every day? Can you imagine if at least a third of those were all about freeing our plant prisoners or freeing Lance Glore? He would be out of prison by now because they don't want to deal with it. Like, it's cheaper to let him, you know, release him at that time. You know, like they're not only you know, costing taxpayers money from behind the bars or in the courtrooms. Oh my gosh, they're paying so much money, taking so much administration time just to answer emails that they have to answer phones that they have to answer, and give messages. We want to wear them out. Like I said before, they know the truth. They know what the right thing to do is. They're choosing not to do it. So when that is happening, it is up to we, the people, to either show up or harass them enough to let them know that they are not doing the job that we are paying them to do, and they need to do it. And again, I think everybody in the United States should be very disgusted and disturbed. And if you want to know what you can do to help someone, a letter, a phone call, talking to your legislators, tell them to get involved in getting these people out of prison. I mean, they have connections that we don't. I don't care if you're in Georgia. Tell them to make a phone call to their freaking buddy in freaking Florida and put the heat on the governor there to let Richard DeLisi out of prison. I mean, we can think outside the box, and we can take 2 to 5 minutes to do something to help. And there's millions of people out there. So instead of like a dozen or 50 of us trying to make an impact, we can all make an impact together. And yeah, a lot of us have our own like organizations, our own efforts, but we're talking 2 to 5 minutes. Like, it's not all about us. And even if you have an organization that helps people, it's what our mission here is, to be selfless. So if you're selfishly, you know, selflessly helping your own organization, and only your organization, that kind of becomes a selfless or a selfish effort. But we still have to remember, we have to help one another. That is how we achieve and accomplish the goals of all of our individual goals, is helping and staying united together and teaming up on these efforts. And you don't have to be an activist. You don't have to be a patient. You just have to be a people to make a phone call and write a letter, or instead of at the water cooler or whatever, talking about the Kardashians or the football game or whatever, you can be talking about, did you know that there's still people spending 25 years in prison for pot? Or did you know that this is going on? Did you know that, you know, I mean, I advocate for, people would think that I would be a police hater, but I'm not. I advocate for safe access to for police officers, because I know a lot of our struggles as American people that we have with police officers are not only because of the prohibition of cannabis, but also because our police officers do not have safe, healthy options. A lot of them are very unhealthy. If you do research, a lot of them are alcoholics. And why? Because it's not legal for them to do anything else, and they have a hard job. And as things evolve, they're making our police officers be like soldiers in other countries these days. Like they kill themselves almost as much as veterans do, but we don't really talk about it because, oh, then we need to have solutions for these officers. And what are the solutions that we already know? For our veterans, it's cannabis, like it's for everyone. It's for everyone. So there is something that you can do in your daily lives to help. Show up at city council meetings, ask, why do we still send people to prison for pot? Like, start those conversations if they're not already happening. There's things that you can do, like get mad with us that this isn't over yet. Get mad with us that there's not safe access for everyone. It's just a plant. Get mad with us that there's still children being taken away from their parents every day for a plant, even if it's legal patient medicine. Like, patients are still getting their kids taken away. It's ridiculous. People are still having to spend a lot of money in courtrooms defending themselves for using this plant and possessing this plant. And a lot of people are still in prison for this plant. And it's time that we get angry and we hold all of our government accountable and make them do their job. Do their job. If you're behind on knowing that we need justice with cannabis prohibition, then you're not qualified to work in our government. You're not qualified to manage us anymore. And I want everyone to feel that way.
And I'd just like to add, I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people will tell me that they're shy, they have social anxiety, and that's what stops them from doing any activism. I also have social anxiety. I used to be a very quiet person, but just doing this, it's helped me by helping others to overcome a lot of things and to grow as a person. I have done some videos where I've called to Ohio and recorded the phone call, legally, of course, in that state because it's a one-party consent. But I've recorded myself with, being nervous because I want other people to know they're not alone in that. It doesn't take, we all have a voice. We all need to use it. Even if your voice is cracking, if it's the right thing to do, please do it.
100, Carrie. And you guys, for those of you that don't know Carrie, I just found this out tonight. Carrie actually used to grow in our Washington market, our Washington legal market. She was a woman grower in our market that couldn't make it, that started out as a bud tender, worked her way up to a grower. She's not just someone
not
that's
bud tender, a trimmer.
Our trimmer, excuse me, not a bud tender.
Okay.
Trimmer. The buds. But I mean, like, you're not just somebody that that doesn't know anything about cannabis at all. Like, you've started from the bottom and worked your way up, and now here you are, advocating for people that don't have a voice, and you're rallying all these strong women together. Man, awesome, good job.
And they do a lot of rallying themselves too. And I think we all keep each other inspired and up to date. And it's really awesome to have, like-minded people who have common goals around.
I agree.
Wow.
I agree.
Well, any closing thoughts, y'all? I mean, I think we jam-packed this whole, I don't even know how long we've been on here now. And you guys have just been so full of information and I really, really appreciate it. But I definitely want to have you guys back on again. Absolutely. Let's stay in touch. And I'm going to close the show down. Stay here. Don't leave just yet. But after I close the show down, we'll talk for a minute. But any last saying? We want to shout out to anybody on the show, whatever, go ahead.
Where are you located, Tara?
I'm in Washington State. I'm in Eastern Washington.
Well, when we get the bus running, that's where we're at. We'll have to come see you.
Hell yeah.
Do a live show. We could do a live show.
I want to go ride that bus, man.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's awesome you're in Washington. I forgot you said that.
Yes. So
I feel like I should shout out my shirt. I'm a Safer Stenciler, but Safer Stencils is Safer Shirts, or safershirts.org is Jared Alloway's thing. He's done a lot to help bring awareness and the safety of cannabis, so people should go check that out.
Awesome.
Oh, they're sure. I
Freedom
love it.
grow.
Oh, look at that one. I like that one. Freedom grower. Oh, look, I got to put you back on the screen here. You got to talk here for a minute. Oh, wait, spotlight, pin video. There we go. And Pinder. Oh, fantastic. Stacy, Kristen, do you have any final words?
No, I was gonna say rest in peace to Stacy's uncle, Gary Sheppard, and rest in peace to my dad, rest in peace to Eugene Fisher, who mentored us all after he was freed from his life sentence. And rest in peace to all of them. We have a whole list of people, some of them who've died in prison, some of them died just through prohibition, and we just want to remember them forever.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Kristen. And I just want to thank Carrie again for inviting me to be a part of this. This has been a great panel and a great show. I didn't know about you, TaraLee, until today, and I'm so glad I do now.
You missed her by 10 minutes at HempFest.
I know. That's so wild. I'm glad you were there.
Crazy.
But hey, here we are now. It brought it back full circle, right?
Are you going to be at HempFest this year?
I'm hoping to. As of
Okay.
right now. Okay. Who knows? I fly by the seat of my pants daily, man.
Well, I hope
Did you,
so.
when you were at HempFest, did you come by our booth that we had?
You know, I went by so many booths. I am so new to this. Like, the HempFest was my first year, and I was just like, oh.
We had the dunk tank.
No, I missed it. I missed that one. Yeah, I saw it. I saw it, but I didn't actually go over there because it was like, you guys were on this way, and I kept going that way for some reason. I don't know. Yeah, it was crazy, but cool.
You missed the best booth at HempFest.
It probably was. I'm definitely the coolest people that I missed, apparently. Yeah. So I'm going to close the live down here tonight. So thanks everybody for joining us tonight. I really appreciate all your guys' comments, and we're going to really put those numbers out for you guys in the next few days, and check out their Instagram links, and I'm going to get all the information out to everybody. So you'll have that and you'll be able to follow through, because I would really like for some of my people and us to take action on this. You know, I'm tired of people just blobbing. We need to take action and get out there and do some of the stuff that these women are doing. If these women can do it, so can you, and so can everybody else. So thanks for joining us tonight, and have a fantastic day or evening or morning or day, whatever it might be.
I love you, Stacy. Love you, Kara.
Love you too.
I love you ladies too, and you, TaraLee.